Everybody, this is Gregory with Permanent Weight Loss Made Easy, where there should be no hesitance in your weight loss and in your weight maintenance. Today we're going to talk about the type of person, or sketch out the type of person that might not have a disordered relationship with food and how relatively rare this person would be. Now, before I begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also, check out my 2 books, which you can find on Amazon, my website, which has hundreds of articles and recipes, my podcast, The Awakened Man, which is very health related. That's been around since 2017. Also, the Cinema Rag, which is about movies. And lastly, if you appreciate my content, there's a link for PayPal. Now, are there people in this planet, let's just say in the West, in the United States, where most of my viewers are at, that don't have a disordered relationship with food and alcohol? Yes. Are they as elusive as the unicorn? No, not as elusive as the unicorn, but I would say that there's not a lot of these people that have a healthy relationship with both of these things. And I've mentioned in the past many times, probably at this point ad nauseum, how the reason why overweight people are overweight is because they have a disordered relationship with food. Like my dog, which you can't see over here, he eats when he's hungry and he walks away. He's not eating to numb the pain. He's not eating to get emotional nurturance, things that maybe we developed when we were younger. So I would tell you that there is there are people in the United States who didn't fall for some of the landmines that the large majority of Americans, I would say, fell for. And what are the 2 largest landmines? Well, one, of course, is going to be childhood trauma, ECT, adverse childhood trauma, ACT. And what's that going to be? Neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, PTSD from some childhood trauma, or it doesn't have to be like a young child. It could be like when you were 9 or 10. And so what do? You turn to food to nurture yourself. You can turn to other things later on, like in your teens, maybe you turn to cutting or pulling your hair out or biting your nails. But food, of course, is the most readily available thing because we have to eat, right? So you might turn to food. And I would say the large majority of overweight people had some sort of childhood trauma, and that's why they started to turn to food at a young age. Now, there are going to be people who were regular weighted through their childhood and adolescence and then started to gain the weight in their 20s and 30s. I tell you, the second landmine is going to be in adolescence with alcohol. So even if you can avoid having kind of a dysfunctional relationship with food as a child, like I did it as a fat kid, high school has its own problems, especially now. Being in high school now is infinitely, in some ways, more difficult than when I was doing it in the 80s. I think when it comes to bullying on your body, it's easier now to be fat because 70% of Americans are overweight, so you're not getting bullied for that. But with cyberbullying and other types of bullying, it's worse than it was back in the 80s. So in high school, this is another place where we can just develop bad habits, of course, through the process of peer pressure and going to parties, that we can start to drink. And so you just think of adolescence in itself being a period of tumult and turbulence and stress, and you're trying to grow, and you're in some ways rebelling from your parents, and you're trying to find your true self. And so you go to these parties and there's alcohol and you want to fit in, and then you start drinking, and then you start to drink a lot because you want to numb out the pain of being a teenager. It's very difficult. And then from there you can develop another bad habit, which is alcohol dependence. And the government defines alcohol dependence as having 10 drinks or more a week for women and 14 drinks or more for men. So as you get into your 20s, now you could either have both of these, one or both. You could have a disordered attachment to food, and now you have a disordered attachment to alcohol, and we can throw in drugs as well. Now, going back to people that maybe were regular weight until their 20s or 30s, and then they started gaining the weight. It's kind of the same thing, like I've talked about in that episode. It's okay to have a slice of cake, but there's no reason to have 2 slices of cake, because of the second slice, same thing with alcohol. By the time you get to the second or third serving, you're trying to leave the state you're in and go to an altered state, right? Why? Why are you trying to go to an altered state? Because there's pain, there's stress, there's hurt that you don't want to deal with, and you think, at least ephemerally, that drinking that third glass of wine or having that second slice of cake is going to make it go away. And sure, it tastes good, but eventually it doesn't make it go away, and you're just exacerbating a problem that you already have. So there are people that started to gain the weight in the 20s and 30s, and why can that be? Maybe it's unresolved childhood trauma, maybe it's the stress of being in your 20s or being recently married, maybe it's a woman who got pregnant and gained a lot of weight and didn't take care of herself, because the average woman should gain only about 30 pounds. When they're pregnant, maybe they gain 50 or 60, now they want to lose the weight and they're stressed about that, or it's hard to be a young mother taking care of a child, so maybe they're turning to food or alcohol or other things, other little cracks in the veneer that they had when they were younger. But are there people that didn't have any of these things? Are there people that are like the 4-year-old who just eat and then they stop eating when they're no longer hungry, and they never drink alcohol, or they have a couple of drinks a month, but maybe one glass of wine a couple of times a month, and that's it? They've never been drunk, or they don't drink. They don't do drugs. They don't have a disordered attachment or codependence to screens, to shopping, to other things, to porn. Yeah, there's some out there. And I would say kudos to you guys, because you guys averted a lot of landmines. And I would say keep it up, because there's more landmines that could be out there later on for you. And instead of like resenting these people, we should be happy for them. They were able to do this. And it's like with successful people. We shouldn't hate successful people. We should strive to be successful, whatever that definition of success is. And I would tell you guys that if you're in this group, or you have a disordered relationship with food or alcohol, work on it. Because like we talked about yesterday, doing the new fad, or delving into to paleo recipes or diet recipes, or doing crash diets, or doing the new exercise fad and getting into CrossFit. All these are stopgap short-term measures, because you're still going to yo-yo diet. You're still going to calorie in, calorie out, because you're not doing the deep work to confront the real reason that you're having struggling with food, and you can't eat like a 4-year-old or a dog. It's because you haven't got to the root of the problem, which is your childhood trauma, and you got to address that. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Do you know people who have a regular relationship with food and alcohol? And I would say too, like with women have that added pressure that even if you see a regular weighted woman, most regular weighted women have struggled with eating disorders of some sort, either be on one side of anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder, because of the pressure that is put on women to maintain their figure. But post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.